All right, thank you for staying with the Monday Report. Town Hall session begins right now. We're talking about unrest in schools. So let me set the context for you. Just over 60 days to the national examinations, close to 10 schools have witnessed some level of unrest for various reasons. Now, CS Magoha had suggested that maybe corporal punishment should be reinstated, but there's also another directive that he gave that students who've been suspended or expelled from one school for being unruly should not be admitted to another school. So we asked you today, should corporal punishment be reintroduced in schools, and how can the school's unrest be mitigated? That's the general conversation we're having. Send in your videos on 0742 961 341. That's our WhatsApp number. Trevor Mbija at Citizen TV Kenya. Use the hashtag Monday Report. Let me introduce my guest real quick. Omboko Milemba is here as the chairperson, KUPPET, Kenya Union of Post-Primary Education Teachers. Thank you so much for making time. And Janet Mudhoni Ouko, CEC Education, Nairobi County, is also here with us. Thank you so much for making time. We had asked you earlier on to send in your videos. Here's part of what you said in regards to how this can be mitigated and whether corporal punishment should be reinstated. Watch.
Introduction of caning in primary and secondary schools should be done because initially when there was caning in schools, there was no such cases of indiscipline. Even the Bible tells us that caning a child will not kill him or her, but it will help him or her grow with discipline.
Discipline should be instilled in the students because we can see some form of indiscipline now that is cropping up, the torching of schools, the destruction of property, and I think it is lack of caning in schools. And CS Magoha, I know Kenyans will support you on this.
In our years, especially in the mid-90s, when caning was legal in schools, students used to be highly disciplined and there were less cases of arson in schools. And I think it's high time now that the government should reintroduce caning as a way of disciplining unruly students from rioting.
Trevor, during the last 1 year, our children have been at home and a number of them have been going through several things. So, and they must be brought back to the normal behavior that they were. So I propose that corporal punishment be brought back.
The teachers are already overwhelmed. You know, the other time we had of a student who walked to school with a panga and he wanted to kill the deputy principal. Now, how do you expect a teacher to cane such a student? It is just impossible. So if the government must reintroduce corporal punishment, then let them bring in more force, maybe from the police or GSU or, you know, from any other sector of security that can help to administer the punishment. But to me, I think teachers cannot.
Mr. Milemba, where is the problem? Let's start from there. What is the reason why we're seeing so much unrest right now?
Thank you so much, and thank you for giving me this chance to come and speak to Kenyans about the unrest in our schools. It's true that unrest is now rampant, and more than 10 schools have actually either burned down buildings and so on and so forth. Others have even killed witchmen, as you have been reporting. And there's total serious unrest in our schools. But I think partly is because of what one of the viewers spoke about. The children had been out of school for a long time. And while at home, the discipline code, regulation, and just the style of school that is an ordinary program for school-going children completely disappeared. And there were all sorts of luxuries and laxity in the way they were handling themselves. So I believe back to school, they have been unable to cope up quickly with the structure of the schools, which they had forgotten for 10 months. And that could be part of the reason why. Another reason is that traditionally we have unrest in schools coming up during exam time, towards third term. And this time, exams are just coming in, though we are in first term. And therefore, that could also be a contributing factor. You remember the government tried to mitigate these unrest in schools using very many programs, including the commissions of inquiries and reports that were done, including the Clement Mwire report. Also, banning of the mocks was part of the mitigating factors and strategy that the government tried to use in order to stop unrest in our schools. But I want to believe that all that has been done, but there must be other reasons currently which are making the students not want to be in school. And therefore, there would be need for the teachers, and I'm a teacher, and I'm talking to the teachers, I'm talking to the principals of schools, the deputies who are directly concerned with discipline schools, and the rest of the teachers, to have actually meetings with students and reinforce that interaction between them so that they may know that what are the challenges that students are facing. One other reason and mitigating factor the government brought on board was to remove the idea of having students just have the teachers pick prefects. And therefore we brought the school councils back. The school councils were supposed to be made of leaders, also prefects that is, but who are elected by the students. I hope that's still going on. So if we use this school councils, we use the teachers and then bring in the parents, so that the parents are also helping, we should be able to actually bring the students to order.
Okay.
Because I believe dialogue is the main thing that made our schools to operate smoothly.
Okay.
Thank you.
Janet, what do you think is the issue here?
Thank you so much, Trevor, for having me today. It's a very serious discussion, and I wouldn't really want us to take the discussion at school so much. And I listen to so many parents that are saying that caning has to be brought back in school, and I want to ask, but caning has not been banned at home. Why aren't parents caning their children at home? So that now we want to say that it is because that caning has been removed from school is why we are experiencing the levels of indiscipline that we are having. The truth of the matter is that the parents also a little bit have dropped the ball a little bit, and I always want to say that sometimes we either want to know where do we fall. Are we? I'm a Christian myself. I know there are Muslims and there are so many other denominations out there, but I would say that as a Christian, when I listen to the debate about homosexuality, I very quickly affirm myself as a Christian. And the Bible prohibits this and that, and the Bible tells me this and that. And then in this whole discussion about the way we want to go with disciplining our children, we want to totally ignore the whole discussion about bringing up a child. I have heard one parent saying there, it is the Bible that tells us about sparing the rod and spoiling the child. So I think it's a discussion we want to have and really just find out where are we standing in all this, because the teachers today are at a dilemma, because correctly put is that the political situation in the school level, not even the political arrangement at the school level, is that the legal arrangement at the school level does not conceptualize the teacher as a modifier of discipline of the child. That was taken away from them by the Basic Education Act Section 36. And so really there is no responsibility that we are asking of the teacher, because the only thing that the teacher can do is to probably counsel the child, and really looking at even how counseling has been enabled in school. We do not want to boast of a very robust guidance and counseling sector. At school level. So really, where is this responsibility falling? And I want to ask parents, the teachers have been held by the law. What has held parents from disciplining their own children? These things, Trevor, are not only happening in schools. You've covered a story today where a child has killed their father right at home. During the COVID situation, when children were at home, there were rowdy girls, I think 9 of them, that escaped from home, and they were doing very nasty things. So it is not that it is only in school that we are seeing this kind of indiscipline. This thing emanates from home. And I think also the situation also is a bit needing a lot of discussion to be done. Because if I think about a school that I went to where I was growing up, and if I think that those are the same teachers that maybe are teaching my child, and therefore maybe the styles that they were using to counsel me are the same styles that are being used right now, you almost predict sort of a divergence in terms of the way those children of nowadays look at life and the way the teachers that time would probably look at life.
But you turned out okay, right? So how is it that the way they taught you should now be different from the students today?
It's not even about teaching. It's about, look at me now, I am a parent and how I am bringing up my child. And the person I left teaching is like my mother. So I am I'm giving a lot of allowance for my child at home. But when they go to school, they find these same rules and regulations that I left in school back in the 90s when I studied, there. So I think we're also looking at some sort of rigid, sort of, and a child coming from home, with all these allowances, parents of nowadays have become so allowing, we've become so Western. But when we get to school, there is nothing about being Western. School rules are just school rules, and they have to be adhered to. So there is a discussion there that needs to happen, so that we either want to accommodate or just adopt a style that suits us all, so that children don't get to school and they're stranded, that all the freedom that you are enjoying at home, all the allowances, all the negotiations, because nowadays parents negotiate with their children. Is there an allowance that a child will sit here and a teacher will sit here and probably we negotiate for what I want to do vis-a-vis what is supposed or what is written down for me to do at school level. Okay. So I want to say that it's not a discussion of yes or no, whether we want to return the cane or we do not want to return the cane. Is a broader discussion of how do we want to shape the responsibilities of these young people. For me, it's more of bringing up responsible people more than even bringing up disciplined children for the amount of time that they will be in school.
All right. Omboko, how much responsibility do the teachers bear on this? Discipline.
Discipline, I think the teachers bear a lot of responsibility on discipline. And a teacher has been trained to disseminate information and knowledge into students. But away from that, he has also been trained to just become a mentor of the student. And therefore, mentorship goes alongside not only with knowledge, but also discipline. So from the dressing, from the walking of a teacher, from the style of behavior and the way he moves around, it's expected to be a standard way of discipline and a standard way of the formal behaviors brought here by Europeans. So I think the teacher plays a very big role in discipline, but the parent has a bigger role. If the teacher will play possibly 30%, the parent has 70%, because the parent also stays with the child for a longer time, and we are expecting that the parents do their part. In fact, I think part of the indiscipline and unrest we have in our schools could also be because of what the society now is displaying. There's a lot of indiscipline in the society. Today I've been watching senior members of society, including members of parliament, and MCAs also are known for this fighting. And you see what I mean? And all that is also just getting to be emulated by the students. And I think this period of COVID and the politics we are going through and the other forms of behavior that has been depicted by the people who are mature and the parents, including ourselves, must have influenced a lot the behavior of children. So the teacher has a big role in terms of discipline. I want to speak a little bit on corporal punishment. Corporal punishment, unlike Janet, I think I'll be very straight. It's not a matter of no, yes. For me, I wouldn't go for it.
So for you, it's a straight no?
It's a straight no, because this was a punishment that was introduced by Europeans because they believe that Africans had a unique way in which they have to be handled in order to get school and also just get the discipline. When they introduced it here, they were not practicing it in their own homes. So for them, it was a unique thing for African child and an African person, including those who went to courts and were imprisoned. There would be a punishment of 2 years and 20 strokes of the cane. You see what I mean? So this was a discrimination. It was a form of violence. It was a colonialism mentality. So if you are thinking of it, you are, and so on and so forth, and then later on, it was also adopted in schools. And the Kenyan government has continuously tried to remove it. And we might flag out somebody like Alonzo Musyoka. When he was the Minister for Education, he's the one who flagged out that let's stop this thing. But later on, the Education Ministry and leadership in the education sector were reluctant for a long time. I want to thank the activists, the child activists like Janet. I think they were on the forefront. And if you go into law, corporal punishment is actually captured somewhere in the Children's Act. That's where it's actually now abolished, not within the Education Act. So it has also been abolished by the United Nations. The European courts on child matters has also abolished it. So I don't think that's the way to go. It was an old good system. I went through it. But the child of now, the way he has been brought up right from home, to school and you now bring corporal punishment in school, it will not work. Yesterday I was in Bungoma, and everybody in Bungoma told me, bring corporal punishment. Then I told them, amongst you here, who did apply corporal punishment to his children yesterday? Nobody could carry up his hand. The last 7 days, nobody could carry up his hand. So you notice the parents are not administering it. And they believe teachers could be given this job. And for them, they believe teachers can do this odd job of caning students. I want to tell them that teachers were never trained to cane students. Let's just deal with this thing as a society. Otherwise, imagining that a teacher will be the one now to cane students and then you are hoping you'll get discipline, that's not the way to go. Remember when teachers were caning students, parents came to school with pangas to beat the teachers and even kill the teachers. So I don't think that has gone away. We need a discussion on which methods to use. And I think I have some mitigating solutions.
We'll come to the solutions in just a bit. And Janet, I'll come to you shortly. Let's hear what you're saying also on the video. There's quite a number that you sent through. Let's listen in.
The frustrations I've harbored for 10 months at home, they're now projecting them on the schools. If only schools could reach out to students, if only schools could go out of their way and have more talks to do with the mental health and get to listen to these children, we wouldn't be witnessing the situation we are witnessing right now.
I think the major cause of the discipline issues in our schools is lack of values, where values have been diluted, eroded, have not been inculcated in the right way, either in our homes, in our churches, in our schools, where we have missed the point about exactly what do these young people, young students need.
I'm a teacher by profession, and the teaching profession is undergoing a very hard time. Now, I would propose a caning. This thing should actually be brought down from the parents. Let the parents do this role.
I don't think corporal punishment will be of great help to our students, since our students are not being punished at home. How then will the teachers start doing it? That one will be completely ironical, and it will bring a lot of chaos in school. Thank you.
As a teacher, that corporal punishment should be reinstated in schools due to the rising in discipline and also misconduct of learners. This has been brought by the new trends of the media and also the technology, which changes day by day. I think this will also improve the security of teachers and learners.
Janet, should we conform to the ways of the 21st century student, or should it be the other way around?
You see, contributor there has talked about something on values, because I think this whole debate is anchored really on the values. What do we value most as a society? And then I would like to say that values cannot be taught in schools. It's one way of ensuring that we are instilling values in children. Values are caught and taught. So you can teach values, but then they are also caught. I want to give you a very today's example. You saw two members of parliament fighting in front of cameras, and they're adults. So what is wrong with children fighting in school as well? And why would you cane children that fought? Because who caned those two adults that fought in front of everybody? So if we think it's okay for adults to go on that way, why do we think it's wrong for the children? So I think it's about the what we portray, you know, as a society, or what do children learn from us as adults that has really even contributed a lot. We've glorified, you know, some things. You know, we've seen leaders, you know, being violent is sort of the in thing. You look like you're really tough. So why wouldn't children behave that way? So I think there's some level of responsibility on adults that has really inspired children. If you have a following of about 1 million on Facebook, and you're this ruffian that speaks the way you want, you don't think that you can filter your speech, you don't subscribe to any sort form of discipline, and then children log in, they admire you, they think you're really tough, why wouldn't those children then behave like you when they go anywhere, in school, in church, and even at home? So I think there's this level, I mean, there's this responsibility that we are running away from, and is what is coming to haunt us as adults. And then also there is this huge responsibility as society that we are putting on teachers. And as Honorable Omboko here has said, the responsibility of teachers is not envisioned in the Act, really. as that one of modifying the behavior of children, especially through caning, because something will happen to them. They will be disciplined by the Teacher Service Commission, and I am sure there is no teacher that wants to follow that route. Can you see the irony that we want teachers that have been barred by law to apply corporal punishment, but we parents, and nobody really, apart from maybe if your child is aggressive enough or is as activist, can take you to court. At home, what is stopping you as a parent from administering that form of punishment if you really think is what can modify your child?
Yeah.
But I think also the other thing that is coming out, if you listen to so many other contributors that are talking, is that we have been conditioned to think that the only thing that can work is corporal punishment, whereas there are alternatives. There are so many other forms of correcting, our children that probably we need to be more socialized on, and probably parents capacitated on, and even teachers at school level, so that then we begin entertaining these other new forms of disciplining or even of modeling our children, and run away from corporal punishment, because it humiliates a child, it brings down the self-esteem of a child, and it can actually not remedy in the long term, because it corrects instantly that particular misdemeanor that the child has done, and it doesn't address the past or even the conceptual, why did the child do that which they did. So, and that is the premise upon which corporal punishment is not considered as effective.
But how come it worked for us?
And I don't know why it worked for us, because it really worked for me. And their parents, I know even now, they're watching and they're even sending their contributions, and they're telling me, Janet, that Children's Act, I have it, but I don't use it. Me at home, I am an African parent. So there are so many parents who are feeling like that today. And that's why I'm saying it's probably an open discussion that we need to have. I don't even think that it is true that many parents are not caning their children. I don't think it is true, because a lot of my friends that I know really do that thing, and their children are okay. And there is that sort of thing that you hear, my mother, there is that we used to say, if my mother hears this. I don't know today how many children can say, if my mother gets to know that I am doing this. Sort of parents just
they will negotiate.
Relaxed, and we are so much negotiating with our children. But when we go to school, do we think teachers have got that time to really negotiate, with your child, so that, because again, at school level, transactions need to happen. Teachers don't have all this time to entertain children that they think have not been brought up in the right way. So I guess a lot and the bulk of the responsibility really lies with the parents. Parents cannot purport to transfer that responsibility to the teachers.
Susan Okongo, who's also a teacher, says, no corporal punishment. These kids are crazy. So she doesn't want to risk it. She's a teacher herself. But so what is the solution to this, Mr. Milemba? Because schools unrest is there. More than almost close to 10 schools have witnessed it. What is the lasting solution?
School unrests have been caused by several reasons. The few papers that were researched and given to the public, the reasons for school unrests, and which I think still work and still happen today, was possibly like poor administration. They would mention food. They would mention lack of the role of parents in instilling discipline in schools. High-handedness, you heard of such a word? And then teachers would be punished for high-handedness. I don't know what the measure of high-handedness was. In fact, I think high-handedness was caning, in which you want us to bring. And the law does not allow us to cane. In fact, I want to advise the teachers from their own right that as this discussion goes on, don't cane any student. Because if anybody wants to tell you to cane the students, please let him bring the law to Parliament. I'm in Parliament, I will be seeing it, and the public will be seeing it. Janet, I think I'm right.
Correct.
So that the law is changed. Otherwise, this discussion and even just street roadside declarations that we bring the cane can just ditch the teacher, because the Teacher Service Commission is the one that manages teachers, not the Ministry of Education. And the Teacher Service Commission is very key, is still very serious about caning in schools. So teachers don't care, and just maybe contribute to the discussion until when a decision will be taken. But going back to solutions, a number of solutions are being given. One, I began with the issue of just creating a school that is also a discussion point, getting the views of the students all the time through their representatives, the teachers, and having dialogue continuously. Because that's what's also happening at home. Like Janet has said, discussions are going on at home, and negotiations are going on at home. So that's one of the solutions we need. Another possible solution is actually screening these students as they come to schools for things like drugs, alcohol, and related things, and actually making sure that they are not victims of it. And where they suspect that they are victims, maybe we should be allowed as teachers to actually test them. Yeah. That may also border with the law. Maybe Janet will speak on that. Yeah. But we need to test them and see if they are infiltrated with narcotics and other things, because that may lead into that. Another thing that would be a solution is actually also for the schools management to continuously have forums with the students within the schools moving forward. I was of a more even serious solution, but which I know many Kenyans are not supporting or may not support. That what is the real role of the boarding schools? Because what are the children destroying when there's this unrest? We don't see them burning the classes. We don't see them burning the food stores. Yeah. But we see them burning the dormitories. What is this thing about dormitories? This is a discussion I want to actually incite and encourage Kenyans to discuss. That what is the role of the boarding schools? And most of the boarding sections that have been banned, when you look at it, they are either ramshackle buildings. Some of them I saw on the TVs here, they were actually mabati made. So the boarding institution must now come to question. Because why did we have boarding schools? Boarding schools were created because they were centers of excellence. Yeah. They were centers of discipline. They were centers of culture, values, Christianity for those who are Christians. And that's where we hid the girls for them to finish schools. That's where we hid the boys not to interact with society that was having other bad things that could not allow education. Yeah. But now the opposite could be happening. It's in the dormitories that students who did not know about alcohol and narcotics know them. Students who did not know about the phones and watching pornography can now watch them in the dormitories. You see what I mean? So we need to question the role of those institutions. And if we were to remove them gradually, these are discussions I'd want Kenyans to face, it would allow more time between the parents and their children at home, and little time between the teachers and their children. So the teachers are just doing academic and impacting of knowledge. But most of the discipline and management of the students is with the children at home.
So you think boarding schools should be phased out?
It should be phased out, and that would also make education to be so simple and easy. And the management requirement for teachers in schools would be reduced to managing these students between morning and evening.
What happens to people who come from far-flung areas? There's some people who come all the way from Turkana to Mangu.
I've taken into account all that, brother.
Yes.
That is not necessary that you move from here and learn from Mombasa. This will be followed by a strategic plan by the government, by the ministry, to make sure that all schools have facilities. Why are we imagining that you must be in Mombasa to be in a better school and leave a school in Esiruro, where I come from, and what is the fate of that child in Esiruro? So education must be a real equalizer. Let's make all the schools to have all the facilities so that you don't have to run from Esiruro, my village in Emuhaya, to come and learn in Mombasa, because you have the same facilities in Esiruro and you can walk back to your
home.
First,
they all have to be upgraded. Janet, I want to get your quick comment before I take a break on this, with the phasing out of boarding schools. Yeah. Is that a practical approach?
The correct position for sure is boarding schools do not make any sense. Economically, and now socially, boarding schools really do not make any sense. And we've had these discussions, Trevor, time and again, only that maybe the Ministry of Education seems fixated, in terms of not willing to try these new ideas. All the ideas are there because we are saying, in terms of cost, it costs a parent more money to take a child to boarding school. And therefore, why you're seeing a report saying that so many children now are at home, it is not because they belong to day schools. It is because they belong to boarding schools. Yeah. And for you to become a boarder of any boarding school in this country, you must part with 53,000 Kenya shillings. Yeah. Many parents do not have that nature of money. And therefore, it beats the logic. Why would we have institutions that we invest in so much, yet a lot of children will just be looking from outside, coveting to join those institutions?
But what about social integration, Janet? I mean, if I come from Kisumu, then it means I'll only be in the same school with the people from my own village who probably speak my own language. So I will not be exposed to anybody else from the outside.
But what happened to university education? And what happens to college education? 4 years, we can postpone your national aspirations to when you join college, because I think for me, access is more important than probably anything else that it were. And I think also, as Honorable Mboko put it, is that government lost the plot. that we stopped investing in where the majority of schools, 65% of learners attend day schools. So why are we over-investing in these boarding schools? And if somebody from the Ministry of Education was to become very honest, our boarding schools now are congested. A lot of the grievances you're seeing from these children comes from even poor diet. You want to queue, there are so many inconveniences. At times there is no water. So there is one other element, and I want to say for sure, it is not for entire indiscipline that we are seeing children rioting. Some of them have genuine grievances that need to be addressed. And part of the addressing is decongesting a lot of those schools, because ask yourself, why are we not seeing this happening in some of the private schools that we know? Because probably it is more comfortable to be there, and children have fewer or lesser, grievances. So much as there is an indisciplined question that we are trying to address, there is also the question of poor quality of education. And the whole issue of children probably feeling desperate, probably hating, the facilities, that they are studying under. And so those are some of the issues that maybe need to be addressed in the long term. But I think the biggest and broader strategy is for parents of this country to really take their parenting responsibilities seriously and to stop forthwith transferring that responsibility to the teacher, because the teacher has no legal, they don't have where they will be coming from to punish your children in an attempt to modify or instill discipline in them. That responsibility entirely rests on the parents. And finally, it's about society, the things we condone. If we want to say that it is right for adults to behave in this way, but then we want to expect very high standards for our children, I think we are lying to these children. And they are giving us feedback, because the way they are behaving, they're just giving us feedback that you guys, this is what you guys have been doing. And a lot of parents now, I am sure, don't have the moral. A lot of parents fight, even at home. So if you fight at home, and you expect those children not to, they cannot cane you, they cannot do anything to you. So why would you cane them when they go fight in school? So I think it's the question of values, and the role as adults are playing in mentoring these children also plays a very big role.
All right, I'll take a quick break here on the Monday Report Town Hall session. I see a lot of your feedback on these issues. When you come back, we'll run some of your videos, and also I'll read through this in just a bit, right?